What if you could tap into King Solomon's wisdom on the #1 most foolproof way on how to build a successful, highly profitable business? Well, in today's video, we're going to be talking about that exact thing. However, you're not going to believe this, but the concept comes from a very common and many times overlooked part of God's creation. Let's get into it. Well, guys, isn't it incredible that the wisdom of Solomon was so vast? The wisdom that God gave to Solomon was so vast that the Bible literally says that Solomon could look at animals and, mountains and trees and rivers, and like everywhere he looked, he could just pull God's wisdom out of these seemingly simple parts of creation. And I intend to do a little bit of that today in the training here. And I actually want to start by going to 1 Kings. Let me pull it up here. I want to show you guys this verse here in 1 Kings, okay, chapter 4, verse 32. And if you guys are taking notes, write this down. 1 Kings chapter 4, verse 32. Mind-blowing, okay? Absolutely mind-blowing. Drop a mind-blowing, like the guy with his mind blown. Drop that kind of emoji in the comments, because this is going to be so crazy, all right? So 1 Kings chapter 4, starting at verse 32, it says this, and this is talking of King Solomon, okay? He spoke 3,000 proverbs, and his songs numbered 1,005. Let's pause right there. Now, it doesn't say this outright in the scripture, but it is my conviction as we read through the context clues of the Bible, how in the world, in 1 Kings chapter 10, the Bible says that all the kings of the earth and the queens, everyone in high authority came to consult with Solomon. How in the world did this happen, guys? Well, it is my conviction that King Solomon, with these 3,000 plus proverbs and 1,005 songs, could it be that in all the international trade that he would do, right, in all of the business deals that he would do, could it be, I'm just hypothesizing, could it be that maybe he would drop a proverb with the business contract, right? Like, could it be that he would drop 5 proverbs with, hey, when you go and shake the guy's hand and you exchange the money for the camels, give him this handwritten letter from me, and it's going to be, 10 proverbs that I want to just bring value to him. So what was happening here, guys? I believe that Solomon was actually putting out content. Okay, so that's already mind-blowing, okay? Again, it doesn't say it outright, but could it be? Maybe so, right? So verse 32, he spoke 3,000 proverbs, and he had 1,005 songs, okay? Verse 33, he spoke about, watch this, he spoke about trees, even from the cedars of Lebanon, all the way to the hyssop that grows out of the walls. He also spoke of animals and birds, reptiles and fish. From all nations, here it is again, from all nations, people came to listen to Solomon's wisdom, sent by all the kings of the earth who had heard his wisdom. So, like, this is the crazy part, okay? When God drops a spirit of wisdom upon you in your business, in your finances, okay, you better get ready to expect the byproduct of that is that people are going to begin to seek out the wisdom that God has put on your life. Okay, and how does that happen? Again, I'm just tying together some context clues here. Could it be that when you put content out there to bring value, okay, that people begin to get attracted to, who's this gal? That was pretty cool. Wow, this guy knows what he's talking about. Whatever your niche, whatever your market is, as you're putting content out, and by the way, please don't have the limiting belief of like, well, man, I'm not very good on camera, so I can't put content out. Y'all, you can blog, you can podcast, you can tweet, you can write paragraphs on your Facebook page. It doesn't all just have to be face, okay? But if you guys and gals want to see your business explode to the next level, I would highly encourage you to, #1, start talking about the way that you can help solve people's problems, #1. And then #2, as a byproduct, okay, all the kings of the earth, it says right here that all the kings of the earth actually sent their people to Solomon. Like, mind-blowing, right? Like, whoa, this guy, he dropped me whatever, 10 proverbs in this business contract that was really helpful for me in my kingdom. Gather up all of the lords and lordesses and send them to Solomon's conference next month, because if he dropped this much value in 10 little proverbs or whatever the number is, right? I'm hypothesizing again. Imagine what would it be like if we actually went and chilled with him at his event, okay? So I'm telling you guys this right now. I say this all the time, but you have got to start putting your voice out there, because if you don't put your voice out there, your sheep will not be able to know your voice. Jesus said it like this: my sheep know my voice. I tell you guys and gals this all the time. My sheep know my voice, and guess what? Your sheep will also know your voice, but they can't unless you start putting your voice out there, okay? So this is the context of what we're going to be talking about today. And really, I just wanted to take a few moments and encourage you guys and gals who are watching the training right now. I know as entrepreneurs, we're like, okay, it seems so simple. Like Rick's breaking it down. All I really have to do is put value out into the marketplace and do it at a consistent level with volume, to the point where people are going to hear about the solution that I have for their problem. And after they hear about my solution to their problem, chances are they are going to want to engage. You're going to raise their hand, quote unquote. If it's on digital, they might reach out, or they might take your free lead magnet or download your ebook for free in exchange for their name, email, and phone number, whatever it is. But they're going to go, yo, he really sounds like he knows what he's talking about. She really sounds like she knows what she's talking about. Could you help me even more? Like, guys, this is literally how simple it is to build your online business, okay? But today, with all of this context being said, I want to actually go deeper into one of the parts here in 1 Kings chapter 4, where the wisdom of Solomon, it literally says that he spoke of trees. Now, I want to ask y'all a semi-trick question, okay? And let me know down here in the comments, okay? What direction does a tree grow? Now, if you have heard me talk about this before, don't be cheating. Don't be giving it away. What direction does a tree grow? Let me see down in the comments. Okay, what direction does the tree grow? All right, people are saying up, 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 right? But guys, here's the punchline. Trees grow in multiple directions, okay? Come with me here to the board and let's check it out. Hey, I really hope that you're enjoying the video. I want to invite you guys. I have recently created a free training teaching people how to make money online. My students are literally making anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a month, and some of them even make hundreds of thousands of dollars, not in a year, but in a single day. If you want more information on how you can get started, all you need is a phone and a laptop. You can go to digitalproductacademy.org, or you can click the link below in the description. Guys, after you watch the free training, if it sounds like it might be something cool for you to check out, you can book a free call with one of my client success coaches, and they'll be able to help you more. Now, back to the video. You've got the dirt right here, okay? And many people think, which is, true, that a tree, why did that just turn into a triangle? Man, this thing, AI, Skynet's coming. Okay, many people think that here's how a tree grows. It grows up, right? And then there's where the little squirrel lives and stuff, right? And here is how a tree grows. And look, it's got all these beautiful apples, right? And like, wow, look at all the fruit. This is a big, beautiful apple tree. It's got so much fruit on it, right? And everybody passing by always sees, where's my laser at here? Everyone passing by looks at the beauty of the tree from what they can see, and they go, wow, look at all of this fruit. This is incredible. And I want you to think about this in the context of business, okay? How many times have you seen somebody who's crushing it in their business, and you're like, oh my gosh, that is so cool? Or maybe, I'm not trying to be salty with some of y'all on here, but some of y'all might be a little salty, being like, who does she think she is? Or how come he thinks he can do that? And oh my gosh. And you start comparing yourself to their fruit, right? Because if you're only looking at one direction of growth, you can only see the fruit on top. But the punchline is, trees don't just grow up, trees also grow down, okay? And here is the amazing part. I got a couple of crazy stories for you guys and gals today, okay? So this part of the tree that you can see up here, okay? This part, excuse me, the above ground part, this part is called the phototropic part of the tree, okay? And everybody, as they're growing their business, they want the phototropic, fruit. I want my branches to spread out wide. I want so much fruit, like it's crazy. I want to just be like popping off fruit and branches, so when everyone looks, they're going to be like, wow, she's got it all figured out. Wow, he's got it all figured out. But I submit to you that what is more important than the phototropic part of the tree that you can see, guess what's more important? This part down here is called the gravitropic part of the tree. Guys, this is where the roots go down. In fact, I need at least 10 people in the comments right now to drop these words. I'm putting down roots. Like, why in the world do people deceive themselves by saying, yo, I want to be so fruitful. I want to have all of this incredible. I want my business to be thriving. But they deceive themselves if they forget that the only way to grow up in God's kingdom, and not just in God's kingdom, in God's order of everything in creation, the only way to grow up is to first grow down. I need at least 10 people in the comments. Drop those words. You've got to first grow down. What does that mean? So this gravitropic work here, okay, this is the work that you are putting in when no one is looking. It's you working on yourself, growing your mindset, making choices, making investments, right? You are taking risks on yourself, going, you know what? I am worth it. I'm going to invest into coaching. I'm going to invest into mentorship. I'm going to take massive action on the information that my mentors are giving me, and I am going to put in the work. And guys, the punchline is this. The reason why the Bible says that all work is profitable is because it will work on you long before it works for you. But the punchline is all work is profitable. Why? Because it's either working on you or it's working for you. Okay, now the concept that I like to teach with this is something that I talk about from time to time here in my trainings, and it's a 3-part concept that ties in to God's order of how you are going to see incredibly awesome growth in your life, in your business, in your success. But before you can grow up, you've got to start growing down. So what are these 3 principles that each and every one of us need to begin to step into if we want to see the growth? I'm glad you asked. Check this out. Okay? The 3 principles are be, do, have. Okay? Be, do, have. Here's a more simple way to say this, okay? You must become who God has called you to become so that you can do what God has called you to do, so that you can have what God has called you to have. Many of you guys and gals know for years I was a worship leader all around the world, 79 nations, stadiums, and everything from like stadiums to trash dumps to missions to like massive conferences and blah, 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 and albums. And those who came in to the part of my journey where they're like, wow, look at all of that fruit that Rick's got. Wow, he is famous and people just love him. But what hardly anybody saw was the roots that I had to put down. And here's the craziest part about it all. In the early days of that journey, in that season of my life, I felt God telling me, I desire for you to have influence in the worship movement. And hear what I just said. God was telling me, I desire for you to have influence in the worship movement. But here's the cool part. This is how God works in our business, in our life, in success, etc. God in his goodness doesn't just say, well, since I desire for you to have this, here everything is. Boom. Right? Like I was telling this story yesterday. So my neighbor, He's got a peach tree growing in his front yard right now. And when the fruit started blossoming at the early part of the season, it was really cool. But all of a sudden now the fruit has gotten so big, like literally the trunk can't handle it anymore. And now the tree is bent over with the weight of the fruit. And unfortunately, I saw yesterday morning that the tree has now broken and split off, and he's probably going to have to cut the thing down. Why? Because there was too much fruit too quick. Okay, so the punchline here is God desires for you to have certain things, certain blessings. Okay, I believe that God wants you and your business to win. Like I believe that God says, I want my people to thrive in the marketplace. I desire for you, son, I desire for you, daughter, to have this success. But before you can have the thing, guess what you have to do? You've got to do the work, right? I need at least 10 people in the comments right now to drop these words. Do the work. Like, don't deceive yourself and think that you're going to get a reputation without doing reps, right? The difference between an amateur and a master is an amateur practices until they get it right, but a master practices until they can't get it wrong. You got to put in the work, man. You got to put in the reps. This is how God has designed this whole entire system. And we're learning, like from Solomon's wisdom today, out of how God has designed trees in the world. This is also how God designs for us to grow into our success. But see, a lot of people get the be, do, have backwards. Let me take you to the board here and explain, okay? God's order of success, like I just broke down for you, is be, do, have, and this is for another time, but I would also add a fourth part here, give, but we're not talking about that right now, okay? So that's separate. But here's how most people think about it, okay? Most people, they go, man, I wish I had this thing. I wish I could have some success. And because they start with I wish, now the filter of the I wish is the context, the lens is, oh man, well, that must take so much work. Oh my gosh, there's no way I could do all that work. And that filters through, well man, I'll never be able to have that, right? We'll never be able to afford this. I can't build a business. Like that's too hard. It takes too much. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm too this. I'm too that. And they're looking at the order of God's success process in the wrong order. But in order for you to achieve what God has called you to achieve, to have what God's called you to have, you've got to flip the order. Instead of just living here in this instead of just living here in this sad place, oh, must be nice. Oh, must be nice, Rick. Oh, who cares? Like it's easy for Rick. Like he's known and he's rich and it must be nice. First of all, I'm going to tell you right now, it is nice, but not so I could just puff up and be prideful. It's nice to know that I actually did the work. And the way that I was able to do the work is I actually became the person. All right? I need at least 10 people in the comments right now. Drop these words. Become the person. Check this out. So instead of starting, oh man, must be nice. Oh man, I'll never be able to. You need to look at it from this way forward. Okay? I desire, let's just say your goal is to be able to give like a tremendous amount of resources, money, etc., to your family, to your favorite charity, to your church, whatever it is. So you go, man, I would love to do that. So instead of going, oh, must be nice, I'll never be able to do that. What you need to do is say, okay, who do I need to become in order to do what it takes so that I can have what God has purposed for me to have? Quick story for you, okay? Going back to my worship day. So a lot of you guys and gals know, I actually me and our community called ourselves musicianaries. We were musical missionaries, 79 nations. We weren't just going to stadiums. We were going to trash dumps and, building orphanages, doing all that stuff. And it was super cool. We would, once a year, we'd host this gigantic missions and worship and prayer event. Every single year, like 4,000 or 5,000 people every single year. And this thing was expensive, man. If you've ever hosted big events, like our event was one of the cheaper ones that I heard about that was this side, 5,000 people. It costed like $350,000, $400,000. And we're missionaries. Like people are like, Rick's famous. He's rich. He can afford it. Like, bruh, I was a missionary, bruh. Like it wasn't like I'm just out here just like, woo, like money gun all the time. Like I was a missionary in those days. So everything was quote unquote by faith, right? And God in his goodness, you know, we would do the event, we'd receive offerings, we'd sell merch, we'd do the whole thing. And many times, you know, let's say the event was 350,000. Many times at the very, very end, like last offering, last t-shirt was sold, everything was done. God, we did your work. And we would still be like 50 grand in the hole. Like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Like, God, help us. And guess what, y'all? It was always a businessman or a businesswoman who God would bring into our path, or just one of our business friends would come up and be like, yo, how much did you guys make budget? We'd be like, we're like 70,000 short. And thank God for these businessmen, businesswomen who were like, oh, 70,000? Here. Like, what? Like, and it was so interesting because this happened time after time after time. And people were encouraged, like, wow, Rick's going for it. They're gathering thousands of people and they're impacting the world with all this cool mission. But internally, I was like, God, there has to be a better way. And so all this to say, there was one time we were like 50,000 or something like that in the hole from doing one of these missions events, gigantic mission event. And again, some business person came and they wrote us a check without even blinking. Oh, 50,000 here, wing, and just gave to us. And many times when that happened, me and my wife would go to prayer together and we'd be like, God, thank you so much. This is amazing. And we went to prayer and I was getting ready to just thank you, God, for this miracle. And the first thing that my wife says, hey, before you do that, we're going to give thanks, but I have a prayer that I want to offer to God first. And I said, okay. So she said, God, thank you so much for supplying our needs. And then she says this, how do we become those people, God? And guys, that prayer, that sentence was the linchpin that literally changed the trajectory of our lives, because for once we were no longer looking from this way back to this way. For the first time, thank God for my wife, she said, God, how do we become those kind of people? It always starts with the B, guys. And here is the punchline. I'm going to give you guys the little secret here, okay?
Hey, real quick, if you've made it this far into the video and you're liking it, do me a favor, share this video with somebody that you think might also receive some value. My biggest heart in this channel is to simply bring some awareness, financial literacy, and do it all from a biblical perspective. So go ahead and share the video, like and subscribe, do all that stuff too. Back to the video.
Be, do, have. So guess what? The roots are the be, the trunk is the do, and the fruit is the have. Okay? If you desire to see massive success in your life, you've got to first become the person that it takes. You've got to put down those roots. And the more you put down the roots, the stronger your trunk can get, AKA the more you can do. See, so many people, they have this false and limiting belief that making money is hard. Why do they think this? It's because they're looking through the lens of trading time for dollars. And since they only know the context of I make money by trading my time and my effort for dollars. So to make $1 million, it's got to be super hard because I would have to trade a ton of time and a ton of effort. And that means that I come to the conclusion that making money is super hard. It must be hard. And anyone who makes a bunch of money in a short amount of time and they do it easily, it's probably a scam, right? Well, that changes when you start to look at the concept of making money in your business through this lens. Those of us who can make a lot of money in a moment, like guys, I'm not sitting here to boast. I say this, I want to encourage you because I'm just a couple of years ahead in my journey from where you are now. And I want to tell you this right now. It is very common to make 6 figures a day in my businesses. I have made 7 figures in one single day. I've made $1 million in one single day before. And it was easier than me working valet whenever me and my wife got married and running after all these cars and in like the Texas heat for 12 hours a day because I was trying to put in some overtime so I could hopefully get paid an extra $100 for the day. Like, it was way easier to make the $1 million in one day than it was to try to make $200 or $300 a day by getting burned in the Texas heat, running around chasing cars as a valet. Why? Because I have become the person that it takes. I have done the work that it requires, and now I can have the fruit that comes from doing the work because I became the person. And by the way, guys, this never goes away. I'm at a level now that it might seem like, oh my gosh, that sounds so crazy, and like, Rick's making this money and this and that. But guys, I'm telling you, I'm still putting roots down that people will not be able to see the fruit of for another year or 2 or 3, because I'm doing work right now on myself that I know, man, I got to go deeper in these roots. I got to become even more. I was telling my wife the other day, we check in a few times a week. How are you doing? How are you feeling? And we were having our quick little meetup, and she asked me, how are you doing? And I said, I'm frustrated. And she says, why? Like, we're doing great. What's frustrating you? I said, I am not who I can be. Like, guys, I'm telling you right now, there's something you need to get inside of your dome when it comes to starting your online business, okay? Just like King Solomon teaching us about trees, it's literally as simple as put your message out there, and the more clearly you can put your message out there, the more people will desire to engage with you. That's the very 30,000 foot view, but the way that actually comes into being and manifests, you have to do the gravitropic work so that you can have the phototropic. And I need you guys to get this in your brain, that there is a certain point where you have so much money, it's no longer about chasing dollars, it's about chasing potential. And I'm telling you this right now, you might be in the season where you're like, yo, I'm chasing the dollars right now. I'm trying to change my life, my kids' lives, my family's life. That's good. But I want to submit to you, flip the switch and understand, even now when you might be struggling, even now when you're like, man, how do I get this business thing figured out? Even now where you're just starting, wherever you're at in your journey, if you were to understand now, I'm not chasing the dollars, I'm chasing the potential, everything will click for you way faster, way smoother, and you will be able to achieve success at a lightning fast speed because you simply now have started at the correct part of the process and not the other way around. Man, it would be nice to be rich. We're never going to be able to do that. That must be so hard. You're thinking of it backwards. You got to start saying, who do I need to become? I'm telling you guys, this is why people who win the lottery go broke like 2 or 3 years later. Why? Because the bag went up, their bank account went up, but their mindset stayed down, right? They didn't become the person it took to be able to steward the millions of dollars. So guess what? It's gone in a moment. Same thing goes for professional athletes, right? They go from like broke or struggling, trailer park in the projects, whatever it is. A lot of times they come from like really hard situations. They get this scholarship. Hey, now you're the basketball player. Now you're the football player. And here's a $5 million contract. And guess what? Most of these guys and gals who get these massive $1 million contracts for the NBA or the NFL, they go broke just a couple of years later. Why? Because the money went up and the mindset stayed down. Okay, you've got to become the person first so that you can do what is required to do so that you can have what God desires for you to have. A couple of quick stories and then we're going to wrap this up, okay? How many of y'all know there is a Chinese bamboo tree, okay? There is a Chinese bamboo tree that when you plant it, it does not grow for 6 years. Could you imagine, like, and that's easy to hear in passing, like, oh, wow, that's cool. But no. Put yourself in the position of the guy or the gal who actually planted the bamboo seed, right? And you're showing up every day, watering this thing. You're diligent, right? You're sticking with it. The sun's shining. You're watering this thing. And you stick with it for a whole entire year. And guess what happens? Nothing. And you do it again for a whole entire year, diligent every single day. You're watering this thing. You're making sure the soil's just right? The sun's doing its work and you're being patient for another year. And guess what happens at the end of year 2? Nothing. But what you don't know is that what appears to be nothing to you on the surface, on the phototropic side, There is actually crazy work being done underneath the surface on the gravitrophic side. And here's the craziest part about this story, okay? After 6 years of no top growth whatsoever, in the 7th year, the Chinese bamboo tree begins to break ground. And guys, here's the craziest part. Within the first 6 weeks, this Chinese bamboo tree grows over 80 feet tall just in the first 6 weeks. Why? Because that tree was putting in the gravitrophic work. Okay? And the same thing is going for you in your business right now. You might be sitting here going, man, nothing's working, nothing's working. It may not feel like it's working on the surface because it's not working for you yet, but guess what? It is working underneath the surface and it's working on you. Listen, it takes a special kind of man, special kind of woman to be able to look at a muddy field and see a garden. It takes a special kind of gal, a special kind of guy to plant a Chinese bamboo tree of your business and say, I know it's going to be worth it. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to be diligent. I am not going to give up because I know how God works. The roots have got to go down first before the shoots and the fruits can go up on the top. And guys, the reason why some people are successful, but most people are not, is because most people are not willing to put in the gravitrophic root work. Why? Because when you're putting in root work, man, it's cold, it is gross, it is dark, right? It is hard. Like, it's really hard to grow down into the dirt, right? Like, that's hard, that's gross, that's dark. No one wants that. That's not the Lambos, that's not the jets, that's not the vacations, that's not the financial freedom, that's not I gave X and Y and Z to my favorite charity. That's like the root work, man. No one wants to do that. But the punchline is this, and if you're taking notes, write this down. Who you become in the dark, or in other words, who you become in the night, will be revealed in the light. What does that mean? The reason why you look at somebody and they're achieving success, you're like, that's amazing, they're so lucky. No, they're not so lucky. You know what happened? They had become a person in the night, in the dark, right? They had done work in the night. They had done work in the dark. And now that the light is on, see, because guys, the punchline is this: the light always reveals the night, right? If you look at someone, they're achieving success and you desire to have that same kind of success, then you have also got to desire to put in that work at night. Because I'm telling you guys this, if you can become who God has called you to become, then you can do what God has called you to do, and then you can finally have what God has called you to have.